I want to start by going back a little bit. So I know you've talked about growing up in Leeds, Alabama, and you've talked about this. You've talked about your experience and how you got to where you are today. I'm curious if you can take me back there a little bit as well to the moment you really knew basketball was going to be your future.
Well, a fluid situation because I played football for one day and I realized that they were freaking nuts out there. The reason I started playing sports, I was starting to get into trouble and I didn't want to do that. I had a great mom and a great grandmother who raised me, and I started hanging out with the wrong crowd. But I wasn't good. So I played football for one day and I realized like these dudes are freaking nuts out here. This is crazy. And then I started playing basketball, and I wasn't very good at it, to be honest with you, because I was only like 5'10". You know, a lot of people, if they go back and look at my career, I didn't get a lot of big time offers, because I grew from 5'10" to 6'5" in 1 year. And
What were you
I
eating that year?
that's a great question. I've been asked that question many times. And you know what was weird about it, Jillian? I didn't even have people like, wait, your bones had to be hurting and blah blah. I said, I don't remember my bones hurting. All I remember is when I went home, when I got back to school, I started the season. When I left, I was a backup point guard, and then when the season started, I was like a 6'5" power forward. So it was a really interesting time. It was a great thing too, to be honest with you, because obviously the basketball thing has been so amazing and blessed for me. It's given me every single thing in my life. But growing up in a small town, I just started playing, man, because I didn't want to be a crook. My mother and grandmother, my mom was a maid, and my grandmother she worked in the meat factory. So I just like, you know what? I don't want to be like these other crazy ass kids around here putting stress on my mother and grandmother. So I was like, hey, even though you suck at sports, it keeps you out of trouble.
So is that where the drive really came from? Was the drive to get out and be something and make something of yourself?
Well, the drive really, to be honest with you, just to get a scholarship. I did first of all, very few guys. Like I hadn't got any letters from major colleges. So to act like I'm not even thinking about the NBA at this time, to be honest with you. I'm thinking about just trying to get to college for free because I'm number one, I started out as a 5'10" backup point guard, and I'm a 6'5" power forward. So I'm not even thinking about the NBA. That's the furthest thing on my radar. And so I was really just trying to get a scholarship to college because, like I say, as great as my mother and grandmother were, I don't know if I could have went to a great school if I had to pay myself.
So when did you start thinking about the NBA then?
After my freshman year in college, because, I wasn't scoring, but I led the SEC in rebounding as a freshman. And I remember one of my coaches, Roger Banks, said to me, son, do you know what you're doing as a freshman? I said, no. He says, what? He says, you're averaging 10 rebounds a game. You're leading the SEC in rebound as a freshman. I says, well, I should be getting more rebounds. I averaged 20 rebounds in in high school. I should be getting more rebounds. He says, son, if you get 10 rebounds a night for the rest of your life, you're going to be in the NBA for 15, 20 years. And I'm like, what? He says, let me show you these stats. And you can go to probably the same stats today. There's probably 10 guys who are averaging double figures in rebounding every year in the NBA. And I was like, yo, man, I should be able to get 10 rebounds in my sleep. And he says, why don't you just get 10 rebounds a night here for a couple of years and then see what happens? And then, like I say, I was there for 3 years, the three of the best years of my life at Auburn. But when I got to the NBA, all I was thinking about, hey, go out and get 10 rebounds a night. I didn't even know I could score. Because I had never averaged more than 13 or 14 points a game. But I knew I could get double-digit rebounds a night. And then that's when everything changed. I'm like, I learned how to score, but man, getting those rebounds got me to the NBA.
Is there a moment or a person or a conversation maybe that really changed your perspective and that changed your life?
It's 100% changed my life. I mean, I'm from a town of a couple thousand people, and I'm thinking, let me get a scholarship. But until he had that conversation about, because I loved rebounding, like I said, I averaged 20 rebounds a game in high school. I was a machine. That's because they never passed me the ball, in fairness. But I was a rebounding machine. And like, man, when I got to college and I realized like, I said, because I always tell myself, man, anybody, and I shouldn't say it because it sounds weird, anybody should be able to get 10 rebounds a night. If you're a good rebounder, you should be getting 10 rebounds a night. You probably should be getting 11 or 12, to be honest with you. And I think for my entire NBA career, I think I averaged over 11, 12 a game. And in one year, I led the NBA in rebound. I think I averaged 14.6. Wow. Still the shortest person to ever lead the league in rebound. I'm very proud of that stat. But once I learned to rebound and score, I was like, man, this is the greatest life ever. Man, because, you know, when you play sports, you know, football's a little different because it's dangerous. Boxing's dangerous too. But the other sports, if you're blessed to play hockey or baseball or basketball, you got one of the best jobs in the world. You're so lucky and fortunate and blessed.
Every little kid, I feel like at some point wants to grow up or has that dream of being a professional athlete. I played sports when I was young. I was not good enough at any one particular sport to even play in college. I golf now. We've talked about this. You golf now. You do this recreationally, but it's to have the ability to make that your livelihood.
Yeah.
Is that one of the things that you're most proud of, or what would you say you are most proud of?
Great question. I think number one, making it is like, first of all, it's like hitting a lottery. You know, people don't even realize it's like 400 players in the NBA. If you're one of the 400 best players in the world, it's pretty special to get in that category. I'm very proud to say I made it there, but also the longevity. You know, playing 15, 16 years is incredible. You know, because the average NBA career is only like 3.5 years. And I obviously had tremendous success. But the thing is, like, I'm so proud of what I accomplished as a basketball player because I was able to change the entire dynamics of my life and people around me. And even now, the stuff that I'm doing from a charity aspect, it's all because of that stupid ball. So basketball is the best thing ever happened to me by far in my life. Well, probably, you know, and I will say Moses Malone because, you know, when I got to the NBA, I wasn't getting to play. And I remember asking Moses, we happen to live in the same building. I said, Mo, can I come speak to you? And he said, sure. So I went up to the penthouse. My big Mo had the penthouse. And I asked him why I wasn't getting to play. And he said, son, you're fat and you're lazy. And at that point, Jillian, I was about 290, 95 pounds, with the same weight I played in college. He said, son, you can't play at 290, 300 pounds in the NBA. You can do that bullshit in college. You can't do it in the NBA because you're playing against the best of the best of the best. And this guy, and I used to call him Dad because he was the best thing happened to me in the NBA. He worked out with me every day before and after practice, made me lose 50 pounds. And it changed the whole dynamic, not just the whole dynamic of my career and my life, because I've seen a bunch of players eat their way out of the NBA. But if I hadn't had a guy like Moses take me on this wing, and he didn't have to, he was at the end of his career. He'd accomplished pretty much everything. But to have a guy who took me on this wing, man, it was just the greatest thing ever.
But you did try to eat your way. I heard the story out of being drafted by the Sixers, my hometown, by the way. So I did laugh out loud when I heard you talk about this. I think it was on another podcast interview, or maybe you've talked about it a few times, but why didn't you want to come to Philly?
Well, you know, back in those days, they had a hard salary cap. So they only had $75,000. And I didn't leave college. You leave college early to set yourself up for financial success. I didn't leave college for $75,000.
Yeah.
So the Sixers, Harold Katz, had invited me up. He says, hey, I want you to get to 285. At that time, like I told you, I was around 295, right around close to 300. He says, and it was like probably 6 weeks out. And I went down to Houston and spent like 6 weeks, and 2 or 3 days before the draft, because the Sixers wanted me to stop and weigh again before I went to New York. So me and my agent, Lance Lushnick, and I'm 280, probably 284, 85, right, even probably below because I wanted to impress the Sixers. But then Lance sent me down and said, yo, man, you do know if the Sixers draft you, you're only going to make $75,000. I'm like, well, that don't sound good. He said, what do you want to do? I said, what can we do to make sure the Sixers don't draft me? So I went on a 3 or 4 day eating binge. I went to Denny's in the morning, got that Grand Slam breakfast. And went to lunch, got a big old steak. Went because I'm in Texas. Went down to this night, had a big old steak, dessert, and everything. And when I get back to Philly, because Harold Katz wanted to see, he said, "I want to see how bad you want to play in the NBA." When I get back to Philly, I'm like 297. He calls me every name in the book. Cat, mother, blah 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 blah. And,
Beep, beep, beep.
yeah, and I'm kind of not trying not to laugh because I'm like, good. They're not going to draft me. And I'm feeling good. We take the train up to New York and we go out and celebrate the night before the draft. And I'm not going to lie. And you know what's so interesting about this whole conversation? If the Sixers hadn't drafted me, I probably would have ate my way out of the NBA because them taking me and pairing me with Moses changed my life. But I will tell you, when David Stern said with the fifth pick, 1984 NBA draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select Charles Barkley, I'm in shock. I mean, this guy's called me every name in the book. So we take the train back down to Philly, and Harold says, "Okay, you know I only got $75,000 for you." I said, "Yeah, you do, and I'm not happy about that." And he says, "Well, if you can play, go to the summer league and show me." So I go to the summer league and I dominate. I mean, I'm really kicking ass, taking names. And we go back down to Philly after about a week. He says, "You prove your point." And they end up trading 2 players. So my first NBA contract was 4 years, $2 million. And I thought that was the greatest thing ever. And it was cool.